In order to create a drop shoulder that fits well, the purl top includes some shoulder shaping at the back using short rows. In this video, I will show you how to do the short rows, how to resolve the short rows, and how to deal with the lace pattern during those short rows.
Okay, so this is what the back looks like so far. As you can see, the sleeves are over here, and this kind of folds like that. And these are the fronts on the wrong side. So now what I'm going to start doing is the short row. So you have finished your back here on a lace row, which means that the next row is going to be a Tunisian simple stitch row. And the way the short rows work is very easy. You just work all this way until around here, somewhere closer to the sleeve. Then you're going to turn around and go back around the same spot, and then when you come back this way to the next stitch, to the next row, you're going to do something called a double loop, and then you're going to do that back here, but a little bit further up, and then back to the same spot, and then back a little further up, and to the same spot, and you're going to do that over and over again until you're around here in the middle of the neck. And on this side you're going to have little steps, and on this side you're also going to have little steps that are inside your cable. All right, so I'm going to show you how that works on the first row and then the next few rows. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my hook. I'm going to pick up my hook and I'm going to work that row of the back and then show you what it looks like when I turn. Okay, so I've worked my first row from the start all the way to the end of row 1, and then here all I'm going to do is leave these stitches unworked, and then I am simply going to return pass by going through one first loop and then 2 loops every time, just like normal. And then I'm gonna go to the same spot but on this side of my work. All right, so I have returned past everything until this point, which is where the pattern indicates. And now I'm going to work my next row. But before I do that, I want to give you some advice, which I have in the pattern, and that is to place a marker on this very first stitch of the row. See, there it is. So you want to put a marker on the 2 loops where that last stitch would usually go, at the last stitch of the row. There you go. And that is my last stitch of this short row. And then I'm going to go over here and work my first double loop. All it means is that usually when we work the first stitch, this is our first stitch, and we go into the second one. But instead of going into the second one, I'm going to go once more into that very first stitch. So you see it there. Forget about this. This is the first stitch of my row. So I'm going to go into that very first stitch, yarn over and pull through one. And now I have 2 loops. Now the very first one is my double loop, and that's the one I want to mark for the return. It can be a bit tricky to mark it. There you go. So I'm going to be marking that double loop, and then I continue working in pattern. So I'm going to do 7 stitches. I think I skipped a stitch. Yeah. So this is my first one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I can check again, make sure I have the right amount of stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The first one is my double loop, and it doesn't count as a stitch. So I've done 7 stitches there. And now I'm going to start working in lace pattern. Now this is where the tricky part gets, where you have to kind of just go with the flow and trust yourself. Now, if we look at the lace, you always have this DSS3 together with 2 increases, 2 yarn overs at the side. So when you decrease 2 in the middle, you are increasing 2 on the outside, and the stitch count stays the same. Now in this case, I have my middle stitch here. So this is my TSS3 together, but I don't have space for my yarn over that goes on the right of that one. So instead of decreasing 2 stitches with a TSS3 together, I'm only going to decrease 2 with a TSS2 together. So I'm going to work this stitch as a TSS, and then these two I'm going to put together as a TSS2 together, and then I'm going to work my next section, and here I'm going to yarn over 2 and continue. So this way my lace remains intact, and I also remain my stitch count intact. And this is going to be mirror on the other side, where I am going to only do a TSS2 together to match with that one yarn over on the side, because there is no yarn over on the right side of that TSS2 or TSS3 together. Okay, so I've worked to the other side of my row, and as you can see here, where is it? Here I've done a TSS2 together with my yarn over here to match the other side. So instead of decreasing the 2 stitches as I usually do, I only decreased 1 stitch to match with the 1 yarn over, since on this side I do not have any space for more yarn overs. So the pattern says to work in pattern until 6 stitches from the end of the row. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you're going to work 4 more TSS, Tunisian simple stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's going to leave you 2 empty stitches at the end. I'm going to leave those empty, and I'm going to work my return pass on the way back. So always returning that very first stitch 1 loop at a time, and then 2 loops every time. And I'm going to place my marker on that very first loop, and I'm just going to continue repeating that. I'm going to go until 2 stitches before this side. So and then I'm going to come back. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when you get to this end. Okay, so I have done my return pass all the way until 2 stitches before the end of the row. So I have, this was my first stitch, remember my double loop, so 1, 2, 3 loops, because the first 2 are the first stitch, so that's the double loop and it doesn't count. And then this is my return pass loop, and that's where I'm going to stop that row. And then I'm going to repeat my short row in this way over here, where I start with my double loop. This is a bit tricky, just pass 1, there you go. So I've got my 2 loops, and then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then I continue with the pattern. So in this case is a Tunisian simple stitch row, so it doesn't really matter what's going on with the lace. I'm just going to do Tunisian simple stitch, and I'm going to continue working this way. I'm going to place my marker here. Now these markers are not necessary, but they are recommended, because at the end where you're going to resolve all these short rows, it's going to be very helpful to have these markers so that you notice where exactly you need to do different things. So I'm going to keep doing this and following my progress table as in the pattern. And according to the pattern, I'm going to be doing either 2 stitches at the end of every row or 3 stitches at the end of every row. And in this case, in the case of 2 stitches, I'm going to be decreasing 4 stitches total. And in the other case of 3 stitches, I'm going to be decreasing 6 stitches total on every row and return pass. So please follow your progress table and keep using your markers, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end of all my short rows. Okay, so this is what the short rows look like once they are finished. As you can see, I have a ton of markers. If you don't have enough markers for this, that's okay. You can probably identify where each short row ends. It's just a bit tricky and you have to pay a lot of attention. So I do recommend using the markers, but if you can't, then just make sure that you find these little steps on this side, and over here you'll be able to see them if you separate your stitches, you see how they kind of group up? That's because this first one is our double loop and the other ones are the regular stitches, so you'll be able to see that. And at this moment you have one less stitch on this side and one less marker than this side. Okay, so in my case I have 20 on this side and 19 over here. Oops, yeah, I lost one already. That's sorry, I'll figure it out. So now what you need to do is a resolving row. So we're going to resolve it by working across the neck, the back of the neck, and then working all the way this side of the short rows and all the way to the end of the sleeve. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to crochet to return pass all of this, and on the return pass here I'm going to resolve these short rows and then work all the way until the end of my sleeve. So I'm going to show you how to resolve the end of the rows over here and the return pass short rows as well. All right, so I'm going to start by creating my last double loop of the short rows. So in this case, all I'm going to do, again, just like before, is yarn over and pull through that very first stitch to create my double. So regardless of what you have worked before, that will always work TSS marker if you happen so that it doesn't get lost. And then I'm going to continue working my row, Tunisian simple in this case. But if you worked a Tunisian simple stitch row in the previous one, then this one will also be a Tunisian simple stitch row. Okay. Okay, I am now at my first marker, so I'm going to remove that marker and I'm going to work on the two loops of the side. So just like I work any other end of the row on Tunisian simple stitch, I'm going to work in there and pull my yarn through, and then I'm going to simply continue with the next stitch. So that's like a little step, but it won't be obvious. And then I'll do the next one. And I'm here back to my next short row, so I'm going to do the same thing and work on those two side loops. This is why the markers are super helpful, because they save any of the guessing. And I'm going to do this all the way to the end. This is the one where the marker fell off, and you can still find it easily. But I think if I didn't have any markers at all, I would probably struggle a little bit. So this was my last short row of this side, and then I'm just going to work on the next section until the end of my row. All right, so now you can see the short rows here, and they look so pretty and so even. And this is the back of the neck, and then I'm gonna start doing the return pass, and I'll show you how to go through those loops. Okay, I am getting close to the end of this section, and here, this is the last stitch before my marker, and remember this marker is for the double loop. So I'm going to remove the marker, and then I'm going to simply yarn over and pull through 1, 2, and 3 loops. That way I join the double loop with the next stitch, and that's it. So I continue. Oh look, this was a double loop that was not marked, so I'm gonna do that again on this one. Let's remove that marker, yarn over, pull through 1, and then this is my double loop, so I'm gonna put that one together with the next stitch. Okay, so as you can see, I am missing a few markers. Okay, So this is my double loop. So if you don't have enough markers, that's okay. You can still see the double loops. You just have to be very, very vigilant to not miss them so that you don't get any holes on your work, okay? See, the double loop wants to go together, but you can't let it go together with the next stitch. Okay, and there's my double loop. Remove my marker and continue. So I'm going to do that all the way till the end. Alright, so here are all of my short rows resolved. Now you can see, I mean, you can't really see that they were there. It's quite cool. And these are my loops. You can kind of see the double loops there. So I'm going to show you how to work on those double loops in the next row. Alright, so we're going to work a TSS row, and then when we get to the double loops, I'll show you what to do there. Alright, so here I am at my first double loop, and all you need to do is ignore it. And instead of working in that one, simply work in the next one. And when you work the next stitch, it kind of pulls on it and makes it a bit smaller. So there's another double loop, and all I do is ignore it and work on my next stitch. There it is. I ignore it and work on the next stitch. And when the stitches kind of pull on each other, that double loop disappears in the background, and that's it. And on the other side is going to be just like a normal row. So I'm going to show you what this looks like all finished up. Alright, so here it is, my last row of the back. I changed to a longer cable, but I don't think it was long enough to show every single part of it. But you can see how it goes up in the middle. So this will give you a lovely shoulder drop. And then you are going to be joining the fronts to these edges and to the sleeves, and then you are done. So I'm just going to return past this one, and I am done with my back. Now, the trickiest part of the short rows, like I talked to you about during making them, is the lace section. So the best advice I can give you right now is to just feel it, like go with the flow. You understand the lace because you've worked on it for so long. So by the time you get here, you know what feels right. You know where the yarn overs go. You know where the decreases go. So if you have a decrease but you don't have space for a yarn over, then only decrease one. If you don't have space for a decrease, then do not do the yarn over that goes there. All right, because that otherwise you'll have extra stitches. So just go with the flow and trust yourself. You can do this. If for some reason you feel like, oh gosh, this is too complicated, then all you have to do is work TSS all throughout, and it's just going to create a little panel at the top, and it's not going to look bad. But that might be an easier solution if you feel like doing the lace and trying to figure out the edges is going to be too complicated. All right, well, I hope this video helped you figure out the lace, the short rows for the pearl top.